Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tower, and I'm the Education Manager for the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21. I've worked in museum and heritage education for the last 20 years, and over those years, I've seen museums go from meeting lotteries and wait lists for school visits to having to find new and novel ways to get students in the door, despite having better qualified program developers and deliverers and offering higher quality programs. The environments around field trips has shifted. Restrictions on and budgets for field trips have gotten tighter and tighter. Field trips must conform to provincial curricula and be able to demonstrate clear links. Extensive documentation and permission forms must be sent home in order to take students on field trips. Buses are more expensive as fuel costs rise, and even when buses are affordable, having access to appropriately certified busing is difficult. Transit time is learning downtime, and even with excellent learning programs, museums can't make up that lost time for students who must travel further distances. Some school boards even revoke all field trips when the number of snow days grows too high, capitulating to public opinion that students should focus their attention in the classroom environment. The number of students that museums can reach and the impact we can have through traditional field trips has grown less and less over the past 10 years. This crisis has left many museum professionals, and others, wondering if the field trip is dead. What we do know is that museum and other alternative site education is not going away. Right now, there is a void. Teachers, students, and museums want to work together to bring exciting learning opportunities forward. Over the last 5 years, I've witnessed an increase in museums bringing programs to students in their local area. These programs have increased in popularity, but they are expensive and cumbersome for museums to operate, and can only reach so far geographically, leaving many students out. As a national museum responsible for educating students on immigration across Canada, but located all the way on one side of the country, we have an obligation to find ways in which we can reach students in Alberta and BC, for example, who cannot with any reasonable expectation visit us for an on-site field trip. It is simply not enough anymore to send resources out into the classroom and hope for the best, or to post information on a website. Students and teachers want and expect higher levels of engagement and interactivity. Therefore, I believe the next step in the outreach trend for museums will be an explosion in the availability of virtual or online field trips. Online or virtual field trips are interactive, live-streamed performances, activities, tours, demonstrations, and more, from sites to the classroom. Using web conferencing, facilitated by mobile devices, museums are able to have experts interact with students, lead activities, give instructions, answer questions, show artifacts, and create games as just a few examples, different from the virtual tour, which is a one-time posted static experience, although it can be augmented with web-based interactives like voting, panning, zooming, or selection. The virtual field trip, on the other hand, allows for students to interact with resources from the museum live. This allows students to, as closely as possible, replicate the experience of actually visiting a museum. While this idea is in its experimental stages in other countries, such as the US and the UK, who often lead the trend in new museum education implementations, I predict that the online field trip will become the primary mode of outreach for museums all over the world over the next 10 years, and will be a mandatory staple of all museums' educational offerings. Currently, I am aware of only one historic site in Canada that offers these types of virtual interactive field trips on a regular basis. The Martello Tower in Quebec City has experimented with these types of tours, and they are reporting good success, but their program requires more refinement and marketing. Many other museums are waiting in the wings, experimenting with one-offs, and I predict that they will be creating their own regular offerings over the next 3 years. Many museums have also experimented with virtual or online tours. Virtual tours are not the same as virtual field trips. Virtual tours are recorded, web-hosted videos or photos that guide the user through a space. They may include some elements that allow the user to dictate their own experience, such as selecting which spaces they want to view, zoom and pan options, polls, quizzes, or further instructions for offline activities, but there is no two-way communication. Virtual field trips, on the other hand, are live. They are hosted through web conferencing, and two-way communication between students and the museum is possible. They do require advanced booking for this service. In the next 5 years, I predict that there will be a catalog of numerous virtual field trips for schools to choose from, and over the next 10 years, this trend will take over from other forms of outreach and will become no longer a luxury, but an expectation and necessity for museums. By taking on this challenge over the next 10 years, museums can fill the gap between the field trips of today and the field trips of tomorrow.